He woke up 90 years too early and had to choose between dying alone or condemning someone else to the same fate. But what happens when survival demands the unthinkable, and love becomes both salvation and sin? Comment where in the world you're watching from. Then let's begin. The vastness of space stretches endlessly in every direction. Stars glimmer like scattered diamonds against the infinite black. No sound disturbs the silence. No motion breaks the stillness. Only the slow rotation of distant galaxies marks the passage of time. A massive starship glides through this cosmic ocean. The vessel is enormous, over half a mile long, shaped like a spinning top with a wide circular body and a tapered nose. The hull gleams white and silver, illuminated by distant starlight. Dozens of viewing ports dot the surface, dark and empty. Along the outer rim, sections rotate slowly, generating artificial gravity for the sleeping passengers inside. The ship's name, Avalon, is painted in large letters near the bow. Beneath it, smaller text reads Homestead Company Journey to Homestead 2. The Avalon travels at half the speed of light, cutting through the void with silent purpose. Inside its hibernation bay, 5,000 passengers sleep in suspended animation, their bodies preserved in gleaming white pods arranged in rows that stretch through vast chambers. The pods hum softly, their surfaces frosted with condensation, status lights blinking green in synchronized rhythm. This is a one-way journey. Earth lies 30 years behind. The destination, Homestead 2, a newly colonized planet, lies 90 years ahead. The passengers will sleep through the entire voyage, waking only when they arrive to begin new lives on a distant world. At least that is the plan. The Avalon passes through a field of asteroids. The rocks drift in loose formation, tumbling slowly through space. Most are small, pebbles, fragments, debris. The ship's defensive systems activate automatically, adjusting course by fractions of degrees to avoid the larger objects. Smaller particles strike the hull harmlessly, burning up against the shields. But one asteroid is different. The size of a boulder, it spins erratically, its trajectory unpredictable. The defensive system calculates, adjusts, redirects. Not enough. The asteroid slams into the starboard side with tremendous force. The impact sends a shudder through the entire vessel. In the engineering section, a cascade of sparks erupts from a junction panel. Circuits overload, systems flicker. Emergency protocols engage. Repair drones deploy, their mechanical arms extending, sensors scanning for damage. In the hibernation bay, one pod begins to malfunction. The status light shifts from green to yellow. Temperature controls spike. The pod's life support system receives corrupted data, interprets sleep duration as complete. The hibernation sequence initiates shutdown. Inside the pod, a man's body begins to warm. His heart rate increases. His breathing deepens. Neural activity surges. After 30 years of frozen sleep, consciousness returns. His eyes open. The man gasps, his chest heaving. He lies on his back, staring up at the curved glass of the hibernation pod. His vision is blurred. His thoughts scattered. He tries to move, but his limbs feel heavy, unresponsive. Slowly, sensation returns. His fingers twitch. His toes curl. He blinks rapidly, trying to focus. The pod's glass cover lifts with a soft hiss. Cool air rushes in. He sits up slowly, his muscles protesting. He is wearing only thin white undergarments. His skin is pale, his hair disheveled. He looks around, disoriented. The hibernation chamber stretches in all directions. Rows upon rows of identical pods, all sealed, all occupied. Soft blue lighting illuminates the space from hidden panels. The air is cool and still. Everything is silent, except for the gentle hum of machinery. He climbs out of the pod carefully, his legs unsteady. He grips the edge for support, breathing hard. His bare feet touch the cold metal floor. He looks down at himself, then at the pod. A screen on the side displays information. James Preston, engineer, gold-class passenger. His name is Jim. He is 30 years old, or was, when he entered hibernation. He has brown hair, a strong jaw, and intelligent eyes that now reflect confusion and fear. He looks around again, searching for others. The chamber is empty. No crew members. No other passengers awake. Only the endless rows of sleeping pods. A voice speaks from hidden speakers. Calm, feminine, automated. Good morning, James Preston. Welcome to the Homestead 2 colony ship Avalon. You have been in hibernation for 30 years. Please proceed to the orientation area for debriefing. Jim's confusion deepens. 30 years. They should still have 90 years left. Something is wrong. Jim follows illuminated floor panels through the hibernation bay and into a wide corridor. The walls are pristine white, the lighting soft and even. His footsteps echo in the emptiness. He passes through automatic doors that slide open with a whisper. The corridor leads to a large circular room, the orientation area. Screens line the walls, displaying welcome messages and information about Homestead 2. Images of lush forests, crystal-clear rivers, and golden fields rotate slowly. Text scrolls past. Your new life awaits. A holographic attendant materializes in the center of the room, a smiling man in a crisp uniform. Welcome to Homestead 2, the hologram says cheerfully. You have arrived at your destination. Please collect your belongings and proceed to the landing shuttle. Jim stares at the hologram. No, he says, his voice hoarse from disuse. No, we haven't arrived. Check the navigation. How long have we been traveling? The hologram's smile doesn't waver. You have been in hibernation for 30 years. Welcome to your new home. That's not right, Jim insists. The journey is 120 years. We should have 90 years left. Something's wrong. The hologram continues smiling, repeating the same greeting. Jim realizes it's a simple program, unable to process his questions. He looks around desperately, searching for a real person. The room is empty. He moves to one of the wall screens and tries to access the ship's systems. Menu after menu appears, but most require crew access codes. He finds a basic navigation display and pulls up the current position. His stomach drops. The Avalon is still only 30 years into its journey. They are nowhere near Homestead 2. He has woken up 90 years too early. Jim stumbles backward, his mind racing. 90 years. 90 years alone on a ship hurtling through space. By the time the Avalon reaches Homestead 2, he will be long dead. He runs back through the corridors, his footsteps pounding against the metal floor. He reaches the hibernation bay and searches frantically for a crew pod. The crew section is separate, marked with red access panels. He tries to open one, but his passenger credentials aren't authorized. He pounds on the panel, shouting for help. No one responds. He returns to his own pod and examines it closely. The screen shows an error log: corrupted data, system malfunction, premature wake-up. He searches for a way to re-enter hibernation, but the pod's reactivation requires crew authorization. He tries override commands, emergency codes, anything he can think of. Nothing works. Hours pass. Jim moves through the ship in a daze, trying door after door, terminal after terminal. The Avalon is massive, but most of it is locked down during the journey. Only the passenger areas are accessible. The hibernation bays, the crew deck reception, the promenade, the Grand Concourse. He finds himself in the Grand Concourse, a vast open space designed to mimic a luxury hotel. The ceiling arches high overhead, embedded with lights that simulate a sky. Shops line the perimeter, their windows dark. A restaurant sits empty, tables set with unused silverware. A swimming pool gleams blue and inviting, its surface perfectly still. Jim stands in the center of the concourse, turning slowly. The space is beautiful, pristine and utterly lifeless. He is the only person awake on a ship carrying 5,000 souls. He sinks to his knees, his hands covering his face. Days blend into weeks. Jim establishes a routine because without it he fears he will lose his mind. He wakes each morning, though morning is arbitrary on a ship that never sees the sun. He exercises in the ship's gym, running on a treadmill that faces a screen displaying forests and beaches. He eats in the cafeteria, where automated systems prepare meals from stored ingredients. He tries to keep busy, to fill the hours, to pretend this is temporary. He spends his days exploring every accessible inch of the ship. He finds the observation deck, a circular room with floor-to-ceiling windows offering an unobstructed view of space. He stands there for hours, watching stars drift past, trying to comprehend the distance between himself and everything he has ever known. He discovers the ship's library, shelves filled with thousands of books, tablets loaded with movies and music. He reads voraciously at first, trying to escape into stories. But every narrative ends and he is still alone. He talks to the ship's automated systems, trying to coax them into helping him. The holographic attendants appear whenever summoned. A bartender at the bar, a receptionist at the information desk, a concierge in the main lobby. They smile and respond to simple requests but can't answer his real questions. They can't understand his desperation. He tries to contact Earth, but the distance is too great. Any message would take years to arrive, and the response would take years to return. He would be long dead before hearing a reply. He grows a beard because shaving feels pointless. He stops setting alarms because sleep comes when it comes. He talks to himself because the silence is unbearable. Exploration. Jim follows illuminated floor panels through the hibernation bay and into a wide corridor. The walls are pristine white, the lighting soft and even. His footsteps echo in the emptiness. He passes through automatic doors that slide open with a whisper. The corridor leads to a large circular room, the orientation area. Screens line the walls, displaying welcome messages and information about Homestead 2. Images of lush forests, crystal clear rivers and golden fields rotate slowly. Text scrolls past. Your new life awaits. A holographic attendant materializes in the center of the room, a smiling man in a crisp uniform. Welcome to Homestead 2. The hologram says cheerfully. You have arrived at your destination. Please collect your belongings and proceed to the landing shuttle. Jim stares at the hologram. No, he says, his voice hoarse from disuse. No, we haven't arrived. Check the navigation. How long have we been traveling? The hologram's smile doesn't waver. You have been in hibernation for 30 years. Welcome to your new home. That's not right, Jim insists. The journey is 120 years. We should have 90 years left. Something's wrong. The hologram continues smiling, repeating the same greeting. Jim realizes it's a simple program, unable to process his questions. He looks around desperately, searching for a real person. The room is empty. He moves to one of the wall screens and tries to access the ship's systems. Menu after menu appears, but most require crew access codes. He finds a basic navigation display and pulls up the current position. His stomach drops. The Avalon is still only 30 years into its journey. They are nowhere near Homestead 2. He has woken up 90 years too early. The realization. Jim stumbles backward, his mind racing. 90 years alone on a ship hurtling through space. By the time the Avalon reaches Homestead 2, he will be long dead. He runs back through the corridors, his footsteps pounding against the metal floor. He reaches the hibernation bay and searches frantically for a crew pod. The crew section is separate, marked with red access panels. He tries to open one, but his passenger credentials aren't authorized. He pounds on the panel, shouting for help. No one responds. He returns to his own pod and examines it closely. The screen shows an error log, corrupted data, system malfunction, premature wake-up. He searches for a way to re-enter hibernation, but the pod's reactivation requires crew authorization. He tries override commands, emergency codes, anything he can think of. Nothing works. Hours pass. Jim moves through the ship in a daze, trying door after door, terminal after terminal. The Avalon is massive, but most of it is locked down during the journey. Only the passenger areas are accessible. The hibernation bays, the crew deck reception, the promenade, the Grand Concourse. He finds himself in the Grand Concourse, a vast open space designed to mimic a luxury hotel. The ceiling arches high overhead, embedded with lights that simulate a sky. Shops line the perimeter, their windows dark. A restaurant sits empty, tables set with unused silverware. A swimming pool gleams blue and inviting, its surface perfectly still. Jim stands in the center of the concourse, turning slowly. The space is beautiful, pristine and utterly lifeless. He is the only person awake on a ship carrying 5,000 souls. He sinks to his knees, his hands covering his face. The passing days blend into weeks. Jim establishes a routine because without it he fears he will lose his mind. He wakes each morning, though morning is arbitrary on a ship that never sees the sun. He exercises in the ship's gym, running on a treadmill that faces a screen displaying forests and beaches. He eats in the cafeteria, where automated systems prepare meals from stored ingredients. He tries to keep busy, to fill the hours, to pretend this is temporary. He spends his days exploring every accessible inch of the ship. He finds the observation deck, a circular room with floor-to-ceiling windows offering an unobstructed view of space. He stands there for hours, watching stars drift past, trying to comprehend the distance between himself and everything he has ever known. He discovers the ship's library, shelves filled with thousands of books, tablets loaded with movies and music. He reads voraciously at first, trying to escape into stories. But every narrative ends, and he is still alone. He talks to the ship's automated systems, trying to coax them into helping him. The holographic attendants appear whenever summoned. A bartender at the bar, a receptionist at the information desk, a concierge in the main lobby. They smile and respond to simple requests, but can't answer his real questions. They can't understand his desperation. He tries to contact Earth, but the distance is too great. Any message would take years to arrive, and the response would take years to return. He would be long dead before hearing a reply. He grows a beard because shaving feels pointless. He stops setting alarms because sleep comes when it comes. He talks to himself because the silence is unbearable. The bar. The Avalon's bar is called the Observatory. It's located near the Grand Concourse, with large windows offering views of space. The bar itself is elegant, polished wood counter, brass fixtures, shelves lined with bottles of premium liquor. Jim sits on a stool, slumped over the counter. He's been drinking for hours. His beard is longer now, unkempt. His clothes are rumpled. His eyes are hollow. Behind the bar, a holographic bartender stands ready. A man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and a friendly smile. His name, according to his name tag, is Arthur. Another whiskey, Jim mutters. Arthur pours smoothly. Rough day, he asks, his voice warm and sympathetic. Jim laughs bitterly. Yeah, you could say that. Want to talk about it? Jim looks at Arthur, at the perfectly rendered concern on his digital face. You're not real, he says. I'm real enough to listen, Arthur replies. And so Jim talks. He tells Arthur everything. The malfunction, the wake-up, the 90 years stretching ahead of him. Arthur listens without judgment, nodding at appropriate moments, refilling Jim's glass when it empties. That's quite a predicament, Arthur says finally. Quite a predicament, Jim echoes. I'm going to die on this ship, Arthur, alone. And there's nothing I can do about it. Arthur considers this. Perhaps you're not as helpless as you think. What do you mean? You're an engineer, aren't you? Perhaps you could fix your pod. Put yourself back to sleep. Jim shakes his head. I've tried everything. The system won't let me reactivate it without crew authorization. What about waking the crew? Their pods are locked. I can't access them. Arthur wipes the counter thoughtfully. There must be something you can do. Jim stares into his glass. There is one thing, he says quietly. Arthur waits. I could wake someone else. The words hang in the air. Arthur's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in the silence. Just one other person, Jim continues. Someone to share this with. Then I wouldn't be alone, but that would condemn them to the same fate, Arthur says carefully. I know. Jim's voice cracks. I know it would be wrong. It would be murder, basically. Taking away their life, their future.
"But I'm going crazy, Arthur. I can't do this alone." Arthur doesn't respond. He simply stands there, waiting. Jim pushes the glass away and stumbles off the stool. "I won't do it," he says. "I won't do that to someone." He walks away, leaving Arthur standing alone behind the bar. But the thought doesn't leave him. Over the following weeks, it grows, taking root in his mind. He finds himself walking through the hibernation bay, looking at the pods, reading the nameplates. Engineers, teachers, farmers, artists, men, women, old, young, 5,000 sleeping people, any one of whom could be his salvation. He tells himself he won't do it. He can't. It's unthinkable, but the loneliness is crushing. He talks to Arthur every night, and the hologram listens, but it's not the same as real human connection. Jim can feel himself changing, his thoughts spiraling. He needs someone. Anyone. He begins researching the passengers. The ship's database contains limited information, names, professions, brief bios. He reads through hundreds of profiles, searching for, what? Someone he might connect with, someone who might forgive him. Then he finds her. Her name is Aurora Lane. She is a writer, 28 years old. Her photo shows a woman with dark hair and bright eyes, smiling softly at the camera. Her bio explains that she's traveling to Homestead 2 to write about the colonization experience, planning to return to Earth after 1 year on the new planet, a journey that will take over 240 years round trip. By the time she returns, everyone she knows on Earth will have been dead for centuries. She's journeying to the future, leaving everything behind for her art. Jim reads her file obsessively. He finds her published articles loaded in the ship's library, thoughtful pieces about travel, adventure, the search for meaning. He feels like he knows her, understands her. He visits her pod. She sleeps peacefully, her face serene behind the frosted glass. He stands there for hours, just looking at her, imagining what it would be like to talk to her, to hear her voice, to not be alone. He leaves. He returns. He leaves again. The battle rages inside him. His desperate need for companionship versus his conscience, his knowledge of right and wrong. One night, Jim sits in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. He's been awake for nearly a year now. He's exhausted, depressed, teetering on the edge of despair. He thinks about Aurora, about how she chose to leave everything behind to chase her dreams, about how she's brave enough to face the unknown alone. He thinks about what he's about to do, the magnitude of it, the irreversibility. He makes his decision. With shaking hands, he accesses the hibernation system using workarounds he's developed over months of study. The system resists, but he's an engineer. He knows how to manipulate the code, to bypass the safeties. He finds Aurora's pod and initiates the wake-up sequence. The status light shifts from green to yellow to red. The process cannot be stopped now. Jim steps back, his heart pounding. What has he done? He flees the hibernation bay, unable to watch. He goes to his quarters and lies on the bed staring at the ceiling, waiting. The guilt is overwhelming, crushing. He has just destroyed someone's life to save his own sanity. Hours pass. Finally, he forces himself to return to the hibernation bay. Aurora's pod is open. She is gone. Jim finds her in the orientation area, wrapped in a white robe, listening to the holographic attendant's cheerful greeting. She looks confused and frightened. When she sees Jim, her eyes widen with relief. "Oh, thank God," she says. "I thought I was alone. What's happening? Have we arrived?" Jim's throat tightens. He can't tell her. Not yet. He needs time to— but what? To make her like him first. To delay the inevitable moment when she learns what he's done. "There's been a malfunction," he says carefully. "With the hibernation pods, we woke up early." "How early?" 90 years. Aurora's face goes pale. She sways slightly, and Jim reaches out to steady her. She pulls away, her breathing rapid. "That's not possible. That can't be possible." "I'm sorry," Jim says, and he means it with every fiber of his being. "I've been awake for over a year. I've tried everything to fix it. There's no way to go back to sleep." Aurora stares at him, her world shattering. Jim watches her go through the same realization he did, the understanding that her life is over, that she will never reach Homestead 2, never return to Earth, never see her family or friends again. Everything she planned, everything she sacrificed, all meaningless now. She sinks to the floor, tears streaming down her face. Jim kneels beside her but doesn't touch her. He knows there are no words that can help. He's been through this himself. "I'm so sorry," he whispers again. The following days are difficult. Aurora moves through the ship like a ghost, trying to process what has happened. Jim gives her space but remains nearby, ready to help if she needs anything. He shows her how to use the automated systems, where to find food, how to access the library. He tries to be useful without being intrusive. Slowly, Aurora begins to accept her situation. She has no choice. She starts exploring the ship, discovering the same spaces Jim found months ago. They begin eating meals together in the cafeteria, at first in silence, then with tentative conversation. Jim tells her about his year alone. He describes the loneliness, the desperation, the endless empty days. Aurora listens, her expression softening. She realizes what he's been through. "I'm glad I'm not alone," she says one evening. Jim nods, the guilt churning in his stomach. "Me too." Days turn into weeks. They fall into a routine. They exercise together, watch movies in the ship's theater, swim in the pool. Aurora begins writing again, documenting their experience. Jim works on various engineering projects, trying to keep his skills sharp, trying to stay busy. They become friends. Then something more. One evening, they sit together in the observation deck, watching a nebula drift past. The colors are breathtaking, purples and pinks swirling against the black. Aurora leans her head on Jim's shoulder. He puts his arm around her. "This isn't the life I planned," she says quietly. "I know, but it's not so bad, as long as I'm not alone." Jim closes his eyes, the guilt threatening to overwhelm him. She doesn't know, she still doesn't know. Months pass. Jim and Aurora grow closer. They laugh together, share stories about their lives on Earth, dream about what they'll do with their time on the ship. Aurora teaches Jim about writing. Jim teaches Aurora about engineering. They transform sections of the ship into their own private spaces. A reading nook in the library, a garden using the hydroponics bay, a stargazing platform on the observation deck. They celebrate Jim's birthday, or what he estimates is his birthday, based on the ship's chronometer. Aurora surprises him with a cake made using the cafeteria synthesizers. It tastes terrible, but they laugh until they cry. They celebrate Aurora's birthday next. Jim creates a photo album using images from her profile and pictures he's taken of her since she woke up. She looks through it with tears in her eyes, touched by the gesture. One night after dinner, Jim kisses her. Aurora kisses him back. They move through the ship together, hand in hand, finding a private cabin. They make love slowly, gently, finding comfort in each other's touch. Afterward, lying together in the dim light, Aurora says, "I love you." Jim's chest tightens. "I love you too." And he does. He loves her completely, which makes what he's done even worse. One morning, Aurora is working in the ship's library, organizing her writing files. She accidentally accesses Jim's user account, which is still logged in on a nearby terminal. She's about to log out when she notices a folder labeled Passenger Research. Curious, she opens it. Inside are hundreds of files, passenger profiles, bios, photos. She scrolls through them, confused. Why would Jim have researched so many passengers? Then she finds her own file. It's been accessed hundreds of times. Notes are attached. Observations about her writing. Comments about her personality. Timestamps showing he viewed it repeatedly before she woke up. Aurora's blood runs cold. She opens the hibernation system logs and finds the command history. There, clear as day, is the manual override that woke her up. The authorization code belongs to Jim. She stands slowly, the tablet trembling in her hands. He woke her up. He deliberately woke her up. She didn't malfunction. He chose her. He condemned her to this fate. Aurora finds Jim in the engineering bay, working on a repair drone. She walks up behind him, her face pale with rage. "You did it," she says. "You woke me up." Jim freezes. He turns slowly, sees the tablet in her hands, sees the knowledge in her eyes. His face crumbles. "Aurora, don't," she says, her voice shaking. "Don't say my name. You killed me. You murdered me. I was alone for a year. I was going insane. So you decided to drag me down with you?" She's shouting now, tears streaming down her face. "I had a life. I had a future. And you took it away because you were lonely. I'm sorry." Jim's voice breaks. "I'm so sorry. I tried not to. I fought it for months. But I couldn't. I couldn't do it alone. You should have." Aurora screams. "You should have died alone. That's what you deserved." She throws the tablet at him. He doesn't dodge. It strikes his chest and clatters to the floor. Aurora backs away, her whole body shaking. "Don't come near me," she says. "Don't ever come near me again." She runs from the engineering bay, leaving Jim standing alone among the machinery. Aurora moves her belongings to a cabin on the opposite side of the ship. She avoids Jim completely. When she sees him in the corridors, she turns and walks the other way. She eats alone, exercises alone, spends her days in isolated corners of the ship. Jim doesn't pursue her. He returns to his own solitude, the guilt eating him alive. He was alone before, but this is worse. Now he knows what he's lost. Now he has to live with what he's done. He spends his nights in the observatory, drinking heavily. Arthur serves him in silence, no longer offering advice. The hologram has seen Jim's descent, and can do nothing to stop it. Weeks pass. Jim grows thinner, more haggard. He stops shaving again, stops exercising. He's been on this ship for nearly 2 years now, and he's more alone than ever.
One night, drunk and despairing, he climbs onto the railing of a high platform overlooking the Grand Concourse. He looks down at the floor far below. It would be so easy. One step and all of this ends. He stands there for a long time, swaying slightly, trying to find the courage. Then he hears a voice. "Don't." He turns. Aurora stands behind him, her expression unreadable. "Why do you care?" he asks bitterly. "Because if you die, I really will be alone." Jim laughs, a harsh sound. "You are alone. Because of me. I know." Aurora's voice is cold. "But killing yourself doesn't fix that. It just makes it worse." Jim climbs down from the railing, too exhausted to argue. Aurora watches him for a moment longer, then walks away. The next morning, the ship shudders violently. Alarms blare throughout the Avalon. Red emergency lights flash in every corridor. Jim jolts awake in his cabin, his heart racing. He runs to the nearest terminal and pulls up the system diagnostics. What he sees makes his blood run cold. The ship's fusion reactor is failing. Temperature readings are spiking far beyond safe levels. If the reactor goes critical, it will destroy the Avalon and everyone on it. He sprints through the corridors, heading for the engineering section. Aurora appears from a side hallway, having heard the alarms. "What's happening?" She shouts over the noise. "The reactor's failing." Jim yells back. The whole ship could explode. They reach the engineering bay together. The space is filled with smoke and sparks. Automated systems struggle to contain the damage, but it's not enough. Jim accesses the controls, trying to understand the problem. The asteroid impact from 2 years ago caused more damage than the automated repair systems could fully handle. Microfractures have been spreading through the reactor containment, weakening it slowly over time. Now it's reached a critical point. Can you fix it? Aurora asks, fear evident in her voice despite her anger at him. "I don't know," Jim says honestly. I need to get to the reactor core, manually vent the excess heat, but the radiation levels. He doesn't finish the sentence. They both understand. Going into the reactor core means exposing himself to lethal doses of radiation. Aurora stares at him. You'll die. Maybe, but if I don't try, we all die. The 5,000 people in hibernation. You, me, everyone. For a moment neither speaks. Then Aurora nods slowly. Tell me what to do. Together they work to save the ship. Aurora follows Jim's instructions, operating controls from the safety of the engineering bay while Jim suits up in a protective radiation suit. The suit is designed for brief exposure, not the extended time he'll need, but it's better than nothing. Jim enters the reactor chamber through a maintenance airlock. The heat is overwhelming even through the suit. Warning alarms scream in his helmet, displaying radiation levels that climb with every step. He can see the reactor core ahead, a massive sphere of contained fusion energy, glowing white-hot. Coolant pipes snake around it, some of them ruptured, spraying superheated gas into the chamber. Through his helmet radio, Aurora guides him using the engineering schematics. You need to reach the manual vent controls. They're on the far side of the core. Jim pushes forward, his vision swimming from the heat and radiation. He reaches the control panel and begins the venting sequence. The ship shudders again, more violently this time. It's not working fast enough. Aurora shouts through the radio. The containment field is collapsing. Jim looks at the reactor core. There's an emergency shutdown lever, a physical failsafe built into the system for exactly this scenario. But it's inside the primary radiation zone. Even a few seconds of exposure would be fatal. There's another way, Jim says quietly. No. Aurora's voice is panicked. Jim, don't. But he's already moving. He reaches the emergency lever and pulls with all his strength. The reactor responds immediately, beginning emergency shutdown. The glow dims. The temperature drops. The ship stops shaking. Jim collapses to the floor, his body failing. Through his fading vision, he can see Aurora's face on the helmet display, tears streaming down her cheeks. I'm sorry, he whispers, for everything. The display goes dark. Aurora drags Jim's body out of the reactor chamber, struggling under his weight. She pulls him to the medical bay, screaming for help even though she knows no one will answer. The ship's automated medical systems activate, scanning Jim's body. The diagnosis is clear: severe radiation poisoning, multiple organ failure, cardiac arrest. Aurora performs CPR, her hands pressing against his chest, her breath filling his lungs. The medical systems deploy a defibrillator. She places the pads on his chest and delivers a shock. His body convulses. No pulse. She tries again and again. The medical bay fills with the sound of her sobs. Then the automated system speaks. Advanced medical pod available. Hibernation-grade life support can be repurposed for intensive care. Patient may be stabilized. Aurora looks up. In the corner of the medical bay stands a pod identical to the hibernation pods, but designed for medical emergencies. She drags Jim to it with the last of her strength and loads him inside. The pod seals, and machines whir to life. Hours pass. Aurora sits on the floor beside the pod, watching Jim's vital signs slowly stabilize. The medical systems work to repair the damage, filtering toxins from his blood, supporting his organs, keeping him alive. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, the pod opens. Jim gasps, his eyes flying open. Aurora is there immediately, holding his hand. You're alive, she whispers. You're alive. Jim looks at her, confused and weak. The ship, it's safe. You saved it. He closes his eyes, relief flooding through him. Then he looks at her again. Aurora, I know, she says. I know what you did, waking me up. And I know what you just did, saving all of us. She pauses, tears sliding down her face. I don't know if I can forgive you, but I understand why you did it, and I don't want you to die. Jim reaches up and touches her face gently. I'm so sorry. I know. Days pass as Jim recovers. Aurora stays by his side. Their relationship tentative but not broken beyond repair. They talk for hours, honestly and painfully. Jim tells her every detail of his year alone, his decision-making process, his guilt. Aurora shares her anger, her grief, her fear. It's not forgiveness. Not yet, but it's a start. One morning, as Jim regains his strength, Aurora makes a discovery. While researching the medical systems, she finds something unexpected in the documentation. The medical pod can be reprogrammed to function as a hibernation pod. It can put someone into suspended animation and keep them there until arrival. But there's only one pod. She finds Jim in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. She tells him what she found. One of us can sleep, she says. One of us can make it to Homestead too. Jim turns to her, understanding immediately. You should go. You deserve to have your life back. Aurora shakes her head. You saved the ship. You saved 5,000 lives. You deserve to live too. I took your life first, and then you gave it back. She steps closer. I think we should both stay awake. Jim stares at her. Aurora, we have 50 years, maybe 60 if we're lucky. We can spend them here, together. We can make a life on this ship. It won't be the life I planned, but, she takes his hand, but it could be a good life, if we choose it together. Jim pulls her into an embrace, holding her tightly. She holds him back. Years pass aboard the Avalon. Jim and Aurora make the ship their home. They transform the sterile spaces into something warm and lived in. They paint murals on the walls of the Grand Concourse. They plant a real garden using seeds from the agricultural stores. They create art, write stories, play music through the ship's speakers. They dance in the empty ballroom, spinning under simulated stars. They swim in the pool, racing each other from end to end. They cook elaborate meals in the cafeteria, experimenting with the synthesizers to create new dishes. Jim builds Aurora a writing studio with a view of space. Aurora convinces Jim to try painting, and they spend afternoons side by side creating art. They argue sometimes, as all couples do. The wound of how they met never fully heals, but they learn to live with it, to move forward together. They marry in a ceremony officiated by Arthur the bartender, exchanging vows in the observation deck with the cosmos as their witness. They age together. Gray appears in Jim's beard, lines around Aurora's eyes. They grow slower but not sadder. The ship becomes their world, and they fill it with love. On their 20th anniversary of being awake, they record a video message for the future passengers. They explain what happened, what they did to save the ship, what they built during their time awake. "We didn't choose this," Aurora says to the camera, "but we made the best of it, and we found something beautiful in the process." Jim adds, "Take care of this ship. Take care of each other. And when you reach Homestead 2, live the lives we never got to live." They continue their existence aboard the Avalon, two souls adrift in the cosmos, making meaning where they found only void. They know they will grow old here, will die here, will never see the planet that was their destination. But they also know they are not alone. They have each other, and sometimes that is enough. Decades pass. Jim and Aurora grow old together. They move slower now, their bodies showing the wear of time. The ship remains their sanctuary, their prison, their home. One evening Jim falls ill. Aurora cares for him, using the medical bay's systems, but they both know his time is running short. He lies in bed, Aurora beside him, holding his hand. "I never regretted staying awake with you," she whispers. "I regret waking you." Jim says honestly, "I'll always regret that. But I don't regret the life we built together." Aurora leans down and kisses his forehead. "Neither do I." Jim's breathing grows shallow. His eyes close. Aurora holds him as his heart beats its final rhythm. When he is gone, she sits in silence, tears streaming down her face, mourning the man who destroyed her future and then filled it with love. Aurora lives alone on the Avalon for several more years. She maintains the routines they established together, keeping the ship running, tending the garden they planted, writing in the studio Jim built for her. She talks to Arthur at the bar, just as Jim once did, finding comfort in the hologram's patient listening. She writes their story, every detail, every moment, every mistake and triumph. She wants the future passengers to understand what happened, to know that two people lived and loved aboard this ship during the long journey through the void. She visits Jim's body, which she has preserved in one of the medical chambers, wrapped in white linen. She talks to him sometimes, telling him about her day, sharing thoughts and memories. One morning, Aurora wakes feeling the weight of her years. She is old now, her body frail. She makes her way slowly to the observation deck, to the spot where she and Jim spent so many evenings together. She sits in their favorite chair and watches the stars drift past. Her breathing slows, her eyes grow heavy, and as the cosmos spins endlessly outside the window, Aurora Lane closes her eyes for the last time. 90 years later, the Avalon's automated systems begin the wake-up sequence. Throughout the hibernation bays, 5,000 pods begin warming their occupants. Status lights shift from green to yellow to red. Glass covers lift with synchronized hisses. Passengers sit up, blinking in confusion, looking around at each other. Crew members emerge from their own pods, immediately moving into action, checking systems, guiding passengers through orientation. The ship has reached Homestead 2. A crew member enters the Grand Concourse and stops abruptly. The space has been transformed. Murals cover the walls, images of Earth, of space, of two people dancing under painted stars. A real garden grows in constructed beds, flowers blooming in impossible colors. Furniture has been rearranged into comfortable living spaces. The crew member radios to the captain. "Sir, you need to see this." More crew arrive. They explore the ship, discovering the changes everywhere. The writing studio, the painted corridors, the modified hydroponics bay, and finally they find the bodies. Jim in the medical chamber, Aurora in the observation deck, both preserved by the ship's systems. In Aurora's hand is a data tablet. The captain picks it up carefully and activates it. Aurora's face appears on the screen, older but still beautiful, her eyes warm. "Hello," she says. "My name is Aurora Lane. If you're watching this, you've made it to Homestead 2. Congratulations, you're about to start the lives you dreamed of." She pauses, her expression growing more serious. "But first I need to tell you what happened during your sleep. Two passengers woke up early, 90 years too early. One of them was me. The other was a man named James Preston. And this is our story." The video continues for over an hour. Aurora tells everything. Jim's accidental awakening, his year of isolation, his terrible decision to wake her. She speaks honestly about her anger, about the betrayal she felt. But she also tells of the asteroid impact, the reactor failure, Jim's heroic repair that saved 5,000 lives. "What he did to me was wrong," Aurora says on the recording. I won't pretend otherwise. He took away my choice, my future. For a long time I hated him for it. But he also saved every single one of you. He gave his life to protect yours. And in the years we spent together, he showed me what it means to truly love someone. Not perfectly, not without mistakes, but completely. She looks directly at the camera, her aged face filled with hard-won wisdom. I chose to stay awake with him, even though I had the chance to sleep. I chose to build a life on this ship instead of waiting for a destination I would never see. And I don't regret that choice. We had 53 years together. We laughed. We cried. We fought. We loved. We turned a prison into a home. Aurora's eyes grow distant, remembering. Jim died 7 years ago. I've been alone since then, finishing our work, tending what we built. I'm old now, and tired. By the time you see this I'll be gone too. But before I go, I want you to know something important. She leans closer to the camera. Life doesn't always go according to plan. Sometimes terrible things happen. Sometimes the people we love hurt us. Sometimes we have to choose between impossible options. But even in the worst circumstances, even when everything is taken from you, you can still choose how to respond. You can still find meaning. You can still love. She smiles, and for a moment the years fall away, and she is young again. Take care of this ship. We left it better than we found it. And when you walk on Homestead 2, when you breathe fresh air and feel real sunlight, live those moments for us. Live the future we couldn't have. Make it beautiful. Make it worth the journey. The recording ends. The captain stands in silence. The crew gathered around him. Someone wipes tears from their eyes. Finally the captain speaks. Give them a proper memorial. They're heroes. They saved this ship and everyone on it. As the Avalon enters orbit around Homestead 2, the crew prepares a ceremony. They bring Jim and Aurora's bodies to the observation deck, the place where they spent so many hours together. The passengers gather, cramming into the space, spilling out into the corridors beyond. The captain stands before them and tells the story of James Preston and Aurora Lane, the engineer and the writer who lived their entire adult lives aboard the Avalon, who saved 5,000 souls, who loved each other in the depths of space. They gave us our future, the captain says. The least we can do is remember them. The passengers observe a moment of silence. Outside the windows, Homestead 2 glows blue and green, and beautiful. A new world, full of possibility. Then following Aurora's recorded wishes, they launch 2 small capsules into space. Inside are Jim and Aurora's ashes, mixed together, along with copies of Aurora's writings and samples from their garden. The capsules will orbit Homestead 2 forever, 2 souls watching over the world they never got to walk upon. As the capsules drift away, catching the light of the new sun, a passenger begins to sing. Others join in. The song fills the observation deck, fills the corridors, fills the ship. A hymn for the lost, a celebration of the found, a testament to the persistence of hope. The passengers descend to Homestead 2 in shuttles, beginning the colonization process. They build settlements on the pristine landscapes, plant crops in the rich soil, breathe the clean air. They create the lives they traveled 120 years to find, but they don't forget the 2 who made it possible. In the first settlement, they erect a monument, 2 figures standing together, looking up at the stars. The plaque reads, James Preston and Aurora Lane, awake for 60 years aboard the Avalon, saved 5,000 lives, loved each other across the cosmos. Their sacrifice gave us tomorrow. Aurora's writings are published and distributed throughout the colony. Her story becomes legend, a tale of betrayal and forgiveness, of loneliness and connection, of 2 people who found each other in the emptiest place imaginable, and chose to hold on. Children grow up hearing about the engineer and the writer. Teachers use their story to discuss ethics, choice, consequence, and redemption. Artists create paintings and sculptures inspired by their life aboard the ship. In the botanical garden of the main settlement, they plant seeds from Jim and Aurora's garden, flowers that bloomed in artificial light now stretching toward a real sun, a living reminder that beauty can grow anywhere, even in the void. Years pass on Homestead 2. The colony thrives. The passengers age, have children, build a civilization. The Avalon remains in orbit, maintained by a skeleton crew, serving as a way station for future ships from Earth. Those who visit the Avalon can walk through the corridors Jim and Aurora transformed. They can see the murals on the walls, the garden still growing in the hydroponics bay, the studio where Aurora wrote their story. The ship has become a museum, a monument to human resilience. In the observatory bar, Arthur the hologram still serves drinks to visitors. When asked, he will tell stories about Jim, the lonely engineer, who spent a year talking to a hologram because he had no one else. Arthur remembers every conversation, every moment of desperation and hope. He was a good man who made a terrible choice, Arthur says to those who ask. But he was also brave, and he loved her. Sometimes that's all any of us can do, love as best we can, with whatever time we're given. Back on Homestead 2, as decades turn into centuries, the story of Jim and Aurora becomes myth, then legend. Details blur, the hard edges of truth soften into parable. But the core remains, 2 people, alone in the darkness, finding light in each other. Parents tell their children, even in the deepest loneliness, connection is possible. Even in the worst mistakes, redemption can be found. Even in a life that goes entirely wrong, love can make it right. And high above the planet, 2 capsules orbit endlessly, catching starlight, holding ashes, marking the place where 2 lives intertwined across the cosmos and refused to let go. In the final analysis, what Jim did was unforgivable. He stole Aurora's life for his own needs.
But what they built together afterward was beautiful. The truth exists in the tension between those two facts. He woke her up because he was selfish and desperate. She forgave him because she was compassionate and pragmatic. They lived because they chose to make meaning out of catastrophe. They danced in empty ballrooms. They painted stars on ceilings. They grew old holding hands. They died knowing they had mattered, not just to each other, but to the 5,000 lives they saved. Their story asks an uncomfortable question. Can love redeem a terrible act? Or does the terrible act forever taint the love? Perhaps there is no answer. Perhaps both things are true at once. The betrayal and the beauty, the sin and the salvation, existing together in the space between stars. Jim and Aurora lived 60 years aboard the Avalon. They spent 20,000 days in each other's company. They spoke millions of words. They shared countless silences. And when the end came for each of them, they did not die alone. In the vast indifference of space, on a ship hurtling through the void, two humans chose each other. Again and again and again. That choice, repeated across decades, tested by anger and grief and time, transformed a prison into a home, loneliness into companionship, survival into life. The Avalon carried 5,000 dreamers to a new world. But it also carried two people who never made it, who sacrificed their destination to save everyone else's, who turned the journey itself into the destination. And in the end, perhaps that's enough. Perhaps the life you live matters more than the life you planned. Perhaps love, however imperfectly found, is still love. Perhaps even in our worst moments we can still choose to be better. The stars keep spinning, the ships keep flying, and somewhere in orbit around a distant world, two capsules drift together through the darkness, carrying the ashes of an engineer and a writer, who proved that even in the loneliest place in the universe, you are never truly alone, as long as you have someone to share the silence with. He woke up 90 years too early, and had to choose between dying alone or condemning someone else to the same fate. But what happens when survival demands the unthinkable, and love becomes both salvation and sin? He made the worst choice imaginable. She forgave him anyway. Together, they turned a tragedy into a lifetime, a prison into a home, and proved that even in the darkest void, human connection can create light. Some stories don't have happy endings, but this one has something rarer, a true one.